some of the key matchups in this game. We've alluded to them. I've hinted at them. Let's start with the Chargers. Let's see if you name some of the players that are looming large in my head. When you think about the three things that have to go right for the Chargers in this game, as we wrap up this crossover episode brought to you by PrizePicks, again, where you can use code LOCKEDONNFL to win $50 instantly when you play your first $5 lineup. What are you thinking for those three keys for the Chargers?
Yeah, so three things that the Chargers absolutely have to do in order to win this game is play a complete game. That's first and foremost. The second is keep up the pressure. And third is win the battle in the trenches. You got to be more physical. Play a complete game. This game could turn into a shootout, right? You're going to take 60 minutes. It's going to take a full effort to get this one done. You can't have the scoring droughts that we've seen from the Chargers. They still have one of the highest 3-and-out percentages in the NFL, so have to consistently find ways to get more offense more consistently for the Chargers. And then keep up the pressure. The Chargers have racked up 7 sacks last week, and they have 18 over their last 3, which is the most in the league in that span. They should get a full workload from Joey Bosa. Hopefully Khalil Mack is able to work his way back, who like I said, is dealing with a little bit of a groin injury. But even their backup edge rushers are making an impact. Tuli Pelotu has more sacks than anyone in the last 3 weeks. He has 5.5 sacks, so he's been playing very, very well with Joey Bosa on limited snaps and Khalil Mack dealing with a little bit of an injury. That's really, really big. Burrow has been sacked about 2.3 times per game. The difference is you got to be able to finish. We know Joe Burrow is really good in the pocket, being able to evade pressure. So that's something that the Chargers are going to have to account for. And then be more physical. You got to win the battle in the trenches. Offensively, this means having an effective running game, limiting the amount of negative runs or no runs for no yards. You got to keep the Bengals running game down. The Chargers got pushed around last week, giving up about 6 yards a carry. The Bengals, they averaged averages the third least in rushing yards per game. That's 29th overall. Getting that Bengals offense behind the sticks is going to be crucial. That way you can really let those pass rushers go to town.
Yeah, I hear those and they resonate with me thinking about things from a Bengals perspective. And if Khalil Mack and Bosa and Tui Pelotu go off, well, that's going to be really hard for Joe Burrow in this offense to overcome. Tell me a little bit before I talk about some keys for the Bengals about Ladd McConkey's impact on this offense. Because I just can't go the whole episode without talking about Ladd McConkey. My co-host, James Rapine, who couldn't be with us today, would be incensed if we didn't talk about Ladd McConkey, one of his favorite players in the draft. How much of a difference maker has he been?
Man, he's been so much fun to watch because Ladd McConkey is such a precise route runner, and he has real 4.3 speed. I mean, when you want to cut that off, snap that route off at 7 yards, he's doing exactly at 7 yards every single time. He has been able to create separation so quickly and so consistently that he has really made himself one of Justin Herbert's most trusted and top targets. And they're not just, throwing the ball to him in the short and intermediate. They're starting to target him down the field as well, because his route running chops were NFL ready when he stepped on the football field. And the Chargers are really trying to find different ways to get those explosions, because yes, he's a little bit of a smaller guy, but he is underrated with the ball in his hands. He can really, really move. So the Chargers are trying to put him in positions to use that yards after catch ability, but also he's just been a really big target on third downs. He's made himself very friendly to the quarterback. And so this is a guy that seems like he is going to be a big time security blanket for Justin Herbert for years to come.
Yeah. I mean, I'm looking at that matchup as one that could be difficult. I think Mike Hilton is the Bengals' best corner right now, and he's their slot corner, but his forte is not necessarily hanging with really shifty guys and really fast guys. Mike Hilton's an awesome player, but they've been taking him off the field in some third and passing situations because they kind of understand what the skill set is. He's a great physical player, awesome run game player, really good when he can play downhill, diagnosing screens, really smart player. But Ladd McConkey is going to be a difficult matchup, I think, for most corners in the NFL, and I think Mike Hilton is no exception there. So that is one matchup I'm looking for. I'm not going to call that necessarily a key to the game, but when I look at the first key from the Bengals side of things, I'm thinking about, can this defense find a way to bounce back and get some stops on a consistent basis? This Chargers offense has not been the most consistent thing in the world, as you point out, despite Justin Herbert playing at a lights out level, especially recently. But the path to disrupting the Chargers offense is what I'm trying to find for the Bengals. They've been pretty good against the run against some good running teams, including the Ravens, despite Derrick Henry's overtime run that really inflated their numbers the first time these teams played back in week 5. But they have managed, I think, to do enough to suppress the run recently when they've been healthy on the defensive line. And then the pass defense has eventually given it up late in the game. And so from that perspective, it's like, okay, well, can they replicate the results against the run, against a team that wants to run the ball, against a team with really good tackles, but some questions on the interior. So can the interior hold up, where the Bengals also have some questions and have been susceptible at times this year? Then if the Chargers do have to pass, is there any pressure to speak of? And that's the concerning thing, right? Is the Trey Hendrickson Godzilla King Kong matchup with Rashawn Slater, massive in this game. If Rashawn Slater holds his own as he has against great edge rushers in the past, it could be a tough day where Justin Herbert's just sitting back there in cavernous pockets, as we've seen quarterbacks do against this Bengals team too often this year. And most prominent example that I can think of is Jaden Daniels back in week 3, just massive, comfortable pockets to throw the ball to whoever he wanted, whenever he wanted. I don't care who's a wide receiver. I don't care what you think about Quentin Johnston. I don't care what you think about Josh Palmer. Those guys are good enough, and Justin Herbert's good enough, and you can even throw Will Dissly into the mix, or those running backs as receivers into the mix. If you can't get pressure, it's going to be really difficult for this defense. So from the defensive side, I guess that's kind of two things. We'll call that two keys in one. On the offensive side for the Bengals, can they protect this week? Because it has been bad. If they can get Orlando Brown and T. Higgins back, I think those are huge, huge shots in the arm for this offense. And those could go a long way in helping them play within the structure of the offense and take a little bit off of Joe Burrow having to take all the hits that he's taking, trying to extend plays. You go look at the tape against the Baltimore Ravens. Not only was it an impressive game for him on paper, you look at what's happening when he's throwing some of those balls.
Yeah,
he's
they got
getting
defenders
crushed.
hanging all over him. Yeah.
And he's like throwing, he can't follow through. He's throwing off platform because he knows the kind of football he has to play right now. And he said that in his presser today. He's talking about, that's just the way I'm going to have to play right now. That's where we are as a team. The Bengals badly need this game. They're going to need to do whatever they can do to try to get out of this game with a win. But I do think it's a tough challenge. And so if they can protect, that would go a long way in helping this offense to get its footing against a defense that so far, as we've talked about this year, David, has been fantastic and is, at least statistically, the best defense the Bengals will have faced so far this year.
I can't wait for it, man. On prime time, Sunday night football in front of the world. 2 of the best quarterbacks on planet Earth are going head to head, and we get to see what trajectory each of these teams are going to take on coming out of this game, because it could be a pivotal moment for both of these teams.
Absolutely make or break in many, many ways for the Cincinnati Bengals, if not mathematically, at least thematically, going into the Bengals bye week.